Greetings and welcome to Photoshop Techniques, Real-Life Examples with Larry Vogel. In this series of videos, I will be sharing with you Photoshop techniques as solutions to real-life images with specific problems. Some of the images in this series will be from files submitted to me by photographers for my critique sessions. I have been holding monthly critique sessions for over 30 years now. During these sessions, I have helped hundreds of photographers improve the quality of their photographs through group critiques and offering image processing solutions through Photoshop. During this time, I have gathered together thousands of real-life images from past critique participants. So I'm going to draw from this collection of photos and help lead you through a series of before and after real-life examples, showing you specific image problems with specific Photoshop solutions. I say this is guaranteed to satisfy both sides, the technical and the creative photographer. So sit back and enjoy this session as we take a look at an image from Carol Murdoch. Alright, so here we are. We're looking at this image that was submitted by Carol Murdoch for one of our Photoshop on the Fly morning sessions. I don't know, I have a problem with that word. Carol had been to Arizona and made this photograph, and she sent it in and asked the question, is there anything that could be done with this photograph? I have forgotten to do an extra exposure for these areas that you see in the sky where obviously the clouds are blown out. So I know this happens or has happened probably to all of us, is that we neglect to make that extra exposure in camera while we're out in the field, and only to discover later that, wow, we probably should have done a follow-up exposure for the high values. Then we could have easily blended those together in Photoshop. Something fairly simple to do with a little bit of masking. But so Carol says, is there anything that we can do? And my answer is, of course, it's Photoshop. Come on. So there's the problem and there is the solution. So let's jump into Photoshop and I'll show you exactly what we did. All right, here we are in Photoshop. You'll see over here on the right that we have a single background layer. This was a JPEG that she sent in, so didn't have the full 16-bit file to work from, but no problem. You'll see what our solution is here, and without even needing to bother with the 16-bit file, although don't overlook the value of a 16-bit file when you have that ability to work from the original raw file. Now, this probably would not have been able to have been rescued, these problems that we have in the sky, the overexposure. We would not have been able to rescue those values, probably even with the 16-bit file in raw processing. So here we go, starting with the background layer. Now, we're always talking about workflow, and my workflow always is about not getting hung up to the point where I can't get back where I started from. So working in a non-destructive workflow. So we want to make sure we're always doing that. So I'm going to start by duplicating this background layer, and I'm going to do a little shortcut with Controller Command J, and you'll see we end up with a second layer here. I try to keep track of my layers by renaming them because it can get, a little bit unwieldy sometimes when you start getting 10, 12, 13 layers and you're starting to look over at the thumbnail and you can't quite figure out what that thumbnail was for. So I'm going to double click here on the little word that says layer 1, and I'm going to call this retouch because that's always my first step as I approach my workflow here in terms of sometimes I crop, or I'm going to leave the image full frame. That was her choice. And I could grab the clone stamp tool and try cloning in some of these clouds. I could grab the healing brush tool and try healing those areas. But I'm going to tell you, one of my first steps, or my first go-to retouching tool, I'm going to grab the lasso tool and I'm going to just sort of circle. I'm going to include that blue area up there too. I'm going to circle this first little bit of high values right around there. All right, so we've made a selection of that area. Make sure we're still on that retouch layer. Very simply, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to use my shortcut also, Shift Backspace. That'll get me into the fill command. And when we're in the fill command here, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that if I don't have content aware there, if it says black, white, or any other thing, I want to make sure that I say content aware. Now, content aware is going to be your best friend when it works. And I always say, Whenever you use content-aware fill, it always has the same 3-word response. And I always say it's, oh my God. And there's usually like, when it works really great, you're like, oh my God. When it doesn't work right, you're going, oh my God. So let's see what happens. We're going to click OK. Wait for it. Oh my God. That's pretty good. So there we are. Okay, I'm going to Control or Command D to deselect. And it kind of made a little bit of a weird patch here. So I'm going to go ahead and reselect that. And just ask it to do the same thing. Shift backspace, hit enter. Real quick if you've got that little shortcut in it. Look at that. Control or Command D again. So let's move over to this other big, enormous cloud area here. I'm going to go ahead and include that one right now too. And there's our selection. Shift backspace, content aware, say OK. Bam. Oh my God. That's the way we'll do that one. All right, Control or Command D. There's a little bit of a high value here. It's a little bit blown out there too, so I can easily check that out. If I don't like what it did, I could always just say, you know, I can do a undo and just put it back if I want to, but I think it worked out okay. So I'm going to leave it in. Now here's one of the cool things is because our retouching is all on a second layer, one of the things that we can try, because there were those where the light source is kind of coming through those clouds. So if we want to like maybe make sure that those areas still have some intensity to them, I'll come up here to the opacity slider and just slowly pull it back a little bit just to see what it does. It would bring back in some light, but I don't think I actually like it. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that at 100%. And then at this point, I'd be ready to move on and do the rest of, you know, any more retouching or any more burning or dodging, things that I want to do to this image. But as you can see, here's sort of their before and there's our after. Pretty spectacular. So what do I say? I always say, man, go for the content aware sometimes. I mean, man, I would say sometimes, all the time. I always begin some of my retouching there, especially when I have large areas like that where it seems like I'm not going to have enough information to grab with the clone stamp tool. So simple. Just circle that thing with the lasso, shift backspace, get into that edit fill, hit content aware, and bam. Now remember, it's either oh my God or it's oh my God. This time it worked out really great. Thank you for watching. Okay, so there you are, another episode of Photoshop Techniques, Real Life Examples with me. I'm Larry Vogel. Thanks for tuning in, and always be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to check the description below where you will find links to my critique events, the Digital Photo Exchange, a meetup group with 2 online meetings per month on the second and last Thursdays, and also check out my Photoshop on the Fly Monday morning sessions, where we discuss all things photographic, every Monday morning at 10 a.m. my time here in Southern California. Be sure to look for the links below in the description, and until next time, stay creative, be inspired, and be an inspiration to others.